Alright, so we're hearing that Grogu is about to get his biggest upgrade yet in The Mandalorian and Grogu, and if this rumor is even remotely close to true, it doesn't just make him stronger, it changes the kind of danger Din's about to walk straight into. Because what's doing the rounds is that Grogu comes into contact with something that boosts his force abilities, an amplifier. Now, I'm not here to sell you a leak as fact, but I'm here to point out something Star Wars has been screaming at us for years. Grogu isn't written like a cute passenger who occasionally does a trick. He's written like a last-second game changer who flips scenes from certain death to survival. And if the movie is going to go big screen, bigger stakes, bigger set pieces, the easiest lever to pull is the one they've been quietly building since day one.
Strap in.
The scary part isn't Grogu gets stronger. The scary part is what happens when the galaxy notices he's getting stronger, and people start treating him like leverage instead of just a kid. Because if the remnants are rebuilding in the shadows through crime, proxies, underworld pressure, then an amplified Grogu isn't just a power-up, he's a jackpot. And once you see the pattern, this rumor stops feeling like random internet noise, and it starts feeling like the most Star Wars way possible to level him up for the big screen. So yeah, before we jump in, don't forget to leave a thumbs up on today's video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to catch more Mandalorian and Grogu coverage as we lead up to the movie, you're in the right place. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get into it.
What are you waiting for?
Now, the reason this force amplifier rumor even has legs is because Grogu has never been a slow burn power progression in the background. He's a wild card, and the show saves him for moments where everything pivots. Think back to the Mudhorn in Season 1. Din isn't losing, he's literally finished. There's no clever exit, no backup plan, just a charging beast and really a countdown to the end. Then Grogu steps in and freezes it mid-air, like the universe just got told to hold its breath, and in one move the show reminds you what the real variable here is. And then you've got the healing with Grief Karga, which is quietly one of the most dangerous abilities Grogu's shown, because healing isn't just impressive, it's valuable in a way that could make factions start thinking Cold Force. That's the moment Grogu stops being Din's kid and starts reading like an asset you either protect or you try and claim. But here's the thing, Grogu's power isn't just about stopping threats, it's about controlling the scale. Calming the Rancor isn't a cool little party trick, it's him influencing something massive and unpredictable. And that's pure movie language, spectacle without needing to turn Din into some kind of superhero. And when he throws up that force shield in Season 3 finale, which was way more impressive than the first time he did it back in Season 1, that's not subtle growth, that's the show straight up positioning him for bigger stakes, bigger pressure, bigger moments moving forward. So why would the movie all of a sudden upgrade him? Because they've been using him like this the entire time, and the amplifier is the clearest way, the cleanest way to push that wild card to the next level without turning the film into some kind of prolonged training camp. So yeah, here's where it starts getting really interesting, because the rumor isn't Grogu gets a bit better. It's that he comes into contact with something that literally spikes his force output like a catalyst that turns the volume up. And again, unconfirmed, treat it like a rumor, but the direction makes sense for a movie. A feature film needs that escalation to feel earned and also immediate. And Star Wars loves a mythic trigger. And if Jon Favreau's been nudging toward Grogu stepping up, this is exactly how you do it. You put him in the mess, you force the moment, and you let the consequences hit like a truck. But what would that actually change on a story level? Because the second Grogu becomes louder, let's say, in the Force, this stops being about whether he can do something and becomes about what happens after he does. Okay, so if the amplifier is real then, the first shift isn't power, it's volatility. A boost doesn't equal mastery, and Grogu's already shown that big moves do cost him, so turning the volume up doesn't all of a sudden make him a Jedi. It makes him a kid holding something heavier than he really knows how to carry. But here's the twist. That's not just dangerous for Din, it's dangerous for the entire situation they're in, because one unstable force surge at the wrong moment doesn't just ruin the plan, it turns the scene into total chaos. And then you get the second shift, visibility. Not a literal glowing beacon like we saw on Typhon in Season 2, unless they want to go full mythic, of course, but the simple reality that big force moments leave ripples. We've seen that time and time again with Luke Skywalker, and ripples spread. So if Grogu starts doing things on a scale you can't explain, shielding blasts, stopping something huge, affecting an entire crowd, let's say, how long do you think that stays local before bounty hunters, warlords, spies, remnants start comparing notes? That's really the tell here, and once that happens, you hit the third shift, the one that changes the emotional engine of the entire movie. Weaponization, because the second Grogu becomes something you can amplify. He stops being a foundling and becomes what many would see as a resource, and the galaxy has never been normal about resources like that.
Does he still have the asset?
Yes. Our source confirmed it.
So Din's problem stops being, can I win this fight? And becomes, can I keep Grogu safe when his own power is what's drawing people in? And with the remnants being out there still and coordinating Shadow Council, now with Thrawn 2, the whole machine's still breathing, then Grogu isn't just a kid in Din's arms. He's a much bigger piece on the board. And yeah, this is where it starts feeling less like a contained Din and Grogu adventure and more like the kind of story that can ripple outward. Because Star Wars doesn't let Force variables stay small for long. If Grogu gets amplified, the consequences don't just hit Din, they change how the people watching from above start thinking, especially the remnants, because they don't see a child, they see leverage. And if you want the scarier version of this, it's not even about a loud Imperial return. What if the remnants are rebuilding the quiet way through proxies, criminal pipelines, underground leverage, destabilizing systems so the galaxy starts craving that order again? That's when an amplified Grogu becomes more than a threat. He becomes the perfect prize. But here's the thing, if that underworld layer is real, which we spoke about in the last couple of videos, it means the remnants don't have to chase Grogu with Star Destroyers. They can move through hired guns, bounty networks, cartel pressure, and deniable operations that never point back to them until it's too late. So why would the amplifier matter in that world? Because it turns Grogu into something you can't ignore, and suddenly the entire Shadow ecosystem starts leaning in.
What has become of Dr. Pershing and the research you promised us?
And this is where a Thrawn-style mentality becomes relevant without me saying he's definitely showing up in the film, because we know what a real strategist does with a Force wildcard. They don't rush it, they contain it, redirect it, weaponize the board around it. Which only raises one nasty question. If Grogu's power is about to spike, is the movie's real danger the fight Din can see, or the trap he can't? And that's where it flips, because the cleanest version of this isn't the movie is about hunting an amplifier. It's that the amplifier is the moment the entire story starts to change shape. Maybe Grogu gets exposed to it early and the rest of the film is Din trying to outrun the consequences. Every big Force moment fixes the immediate problem, but it also turns up the heat. Because the bigger Grogu gets, the more eyes swivel towards him. So here's the question. If Grogu becomes valuable enough, how many factions start chasing him before Din even realizes the chase has begun? And that's the tease really, because, well, maybe it's actually the late payoff. And honestly, that might hit harder for a movie. Build the pressure, corner Din in a situation blasters can't solve, then force Grogu to step up and reveal a new level when it matters the most. And the emotional consequence is brutal either way, right? Because once Grogu crosses that line, Din doesn't get to go back to quiet jobs and simple missions, because the galaxy will start treating Grogu like a resource that needs to be claimed, on a scale that eclipses Gideon's obsession with him before. And if the remnants really are operating through the underworld, and I'll link the video for the whole theory on that at the end, it just makes the net wider, because now you're not just dodging stormtroopers, you're dodging an entire shadow network that can reach anywhere, anytime, with no flag, no uniform, and most importantly, no warning. So heading into the film, the real thing to watch for isn't just, does Grogu power up? It's, what does that power up invite into the story? So yeah, that's why this rumor is worth talking about, even while keeping it firmly in the unconfirmed box for now, because it isn't random. It is a clean continuation of how Grogu has always been used. The show doesn't drip feed his powers every episode, it saves it for turning points, and the movie format is basically built for turning points. An amplifier, whatever form it ends up taking, solves the escalation problem instantly because you get bigger set pieces without breaking Din's grounded vibe, and you get a new kind of tension that actually feels a little bit fresh. Din isn't just protecting Grogu from danger, he's protecting Grogu from becoming something people try and use. And if the remnants are rebuilding through that quiet influence, then that's where it gets really spicy because Grogu doesn't just attract enemies. He accelerates timetables, he pulls resources, forces moves, which makes me wonder if Grogu does get louder in the Force, is it the moment that Star Wars finally turns him from this cute little wild card into a full-on Force player on the big screen? And here's a question I have for you. Do you want Grogu to stay mostly small scale with occasional huge moments, pretty much like we've seen him as so far? Or do you want him to step into the story like a real Jedi level variable that changes the whole board? Anyways, as always, drop your thoughts, theories, and wildest speculations down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our theory on how the Underworld and the Imperial Remnants really do fit together in this movie. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one, and may the Force be with you.